ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, everybody out there. How are you doing today? So let's just get started. So today, what this is the Bunny Rabbit's Hole. This is a little podcast with myself, Craig, and I'm not Craig. You're Craig. I'm looking at Craig, but I'm Jason. He's Craig.
Right.
So we're on a roll already. I did not get enough coffee today. That's why I'm jumping it up with pre-workouts. Hopefully that'll get my energy flowing. But like I said, this is the Bunny Rabbit's Hole. And what we do here is we take a central theme for our podcast or our video, and then we let topics that we talk about take us in other directions. And when we get to the end of that direction, we get reeled back to the main central theme.
Right. And we also, we research both sides of the coin, so to speak. So we don't just research stuff that fits our narrative. We also research stuff that goes against our narrative. So we're using facts, but we're also using our opinion in here as well, because this is for entertainment.
Good. This is an entertainment podcast, and sometimes things do get said in the heat of the moment that may be offensive to small children, people of frail minds, those with sensitivity issues, people that don't like pink, a lot of other things. But really what we're trying to say is this is for fun. It's about fun. It's entertainment. You'll learn something because we learned something. And if already this isn't your cup of tea, bye-bye. You've been warned.
Right. All right. So today we are
What are we talking about today, Craig?
Today we are talking about the law of attraction.
And I want to get this out right away, because I mentioned the other day that we were going to do a podcast about the law of attraction, and I mentioned The Secret, which is the one thing everybody knows about the law of attraction. And my coworker went, Oprah? No. Yes, it was popularized on Oprah. She did a huge segment on it with, I think it was Dr. Proctor. And
yeah.
The Secret became a cultural phenomenon after that. But as we'll go and learn, the law of attraction is much, much older than even Oprah.
Right.
Or her weight issues.
Right. Who
the fuck is going to take dieting advice from somebody, the most yo-yoist dieted person of all time? I mean, I don't want to see her on any more Weight Watchers commercials, because I know what she's going to look like in 3 months.
Right. Yeah, that's like taking parenting advice from Dr. Spock, who had no kids.
Right. Exactly. So, okay. So what, on the basis level, is the definition of the law of attraction, Craig? Let's start there.
The basis level is like energy attracts like energy. And I'll expand on that by saying you get what you put out into the universe. You know, if you're a really positive person, really upbeat person, that's what you're going to get back to you. You know, yes, some negative does slip through, but the test in life is how do you react to that negative and how you let it affect you.
Exactly.
I mean, I'll give you an example, and this is something I tell my kids. If you meet somebody and you're going to start a new relationship, and I've actually met people who have done this. You know, they've come up, you start a relationship with them and you're like, oh, this will be fun while it lasts. I wonder how this is going to end. You're putting that out there. You're actually attracting the end of that relationship.
Right.
But if you start a relationship going, man, this is awesome. I can't wait to see what good things come from this. You're going to get good things in return. I mean, it's life. There's always going to be some bad things that pop up, but they don't have to affect you as harshly as they do.
Right. A good thing about this, we talked about it last week in our Halloween episode. We talked about the book really quickly, about The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Right.
It's a great book. If you haven't read it, go find it. It's on Amazon. We'll put a link into our show notes. But in the book, he brings up a really good thing that kind of goes along with what you were talking about right there. He brings up the law of opposites.
Yeah.
Now, the law of opposites is simply I'm paraphrasing all this. I don't have any of this in my notes, so this is coming out of this noodle. But the essentially what it is if everything good in your life happens, that's a bad thing. And if bad things happen to you, that's a good thing. Because every time something negative happens to you, it's a chance for growth. It's a chance to become a better person. If everything great happens to you, then you don't know how to deal with problems. And that's actually a bad thing. You're not actually becoming a better person. So you're always going to have problems in life. It's just, how do you deal with those problems, and how do you grow from it from there? So kind of like what you were just talking about, where if you're happy, then if you're happy all the time, it's not a bad thing like that would say. It is using the law of attraction, where you can notice the negative things and you know how to deal with them when they do happen.
Exactly.
It's more, so there's a long-winded way of just saying, being observant of your own life,
right?
Taking responsibility for your own life,
right? And it basically, boils down to shit happens.
It does. Shit is it's always going to happen. And I'll mention one more thing out of the book. He says that a bum has money problems. Warren Buffett has money problems. Warren Buffett's money problems are just nicer.
Right. Right.
So,
all right. So let's before we go into all this other stuff, let's go into a little bit of the history about it.
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah. Okay. The law of attraction was first the term was coined in 1877. The first person to kind of talk about it was, I see this, I keep thinking Phineas and Ferb, but his name was Phineas Quimby. And it was in the early 19th century. And basically what happened is this guy was diagnosed with tuberculosis, a word I can never say, and medical treatment wasn't working. So he began carriage riding through his hometown, Lebanon, New Hampshire. There's a Lebanon, New Hampshire. I did not know that. That's cool. Oh. He then regained his health and recovered, an event that prompted his study of mind over body. Although he never used the words law of attraction, he explained this in a statement that captured the concept in the field of health. And here's the statement. The trouble is in the mind, for the body is only the house for the mind to dwell in. And we put a value on it according to its worth. Therefore, if your mind has been deceived by some invisible enemy into a belief, you have put it into the form of a disease, with or without your knowledge. By my theory or truth, I come in contact with your enemy and restore you to your health and happiness. This I do partly mentally and partly by talking till I correct the wrong impression, establish the truth, and the truth is the cure. Now, basically what this says, I'm going to sum it up real quick, and I'm going to talk about it again later. It's reprogramming your mind.
Yeah.
And, we'll get more into that later, because you and I we've talked about that extensively before on the phone. So we'll talk about that later. So basically this guy came up with this idea, and I'm sure it's been around longer than that. He was the first one to actually talk to people about it.
Right.
In like a educational aspect.
Yes.
There's also somebody who used, and here you go, this is a good one, a Bible verse. Oh. I didn't see the guy who used it, but it's from Mark 11:24, and it says, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours."
Oh, that's fundamentally what the law of attraction states.
Right.
Yeah. Now,
go ahead.
No, to continue on with that, I have to, when you said that came out of the Bible, I want to throw out there that the first time it was ever written in print was by a Russian occultist, by Helena Blavatsky.
Yes.
In 1877, the term law of attraction, she wrote it in a book that she had written. So the reason I wanted to throw that out there, probably faster than we normally would have, but I wanted to throw out there that this is not a religious thing. Okay, it may be spiritual, it may be esoteric, existential, but it's not a religious thing. So I just want to throw that out there, because the law of attraction is bigger.
Right.
And you
Right.
say, what? Bigger than God? Bigger than. What I mean by bigger is this is the universe, okay? So if your version of religion is God is the universe, then that's the level we're talking here.
Yeah.
This is not some little concept that it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna put some stuff on a board and then it's gonna happen for me. No, this is it. This is kind of the root that a lot of um, the Eastern religions are like the Zen and Buddha and all this other stuff where you get really spiritual on a higher plane. That's this type of thing. This is bigger than a lot of that. So I just want to get out there that this isn't when we're talking about law of attraction, we're not talking about praying to God. We're not talking about doing rituals to Satan. I'm not talking about praying to Muhammad, to Buddha, to anything else. This is its own thing.
Okay. Yeah, it is.
Disclaimer over.
I'm going to, I love that we're doing this topic because I love this topic. Because I kind of live my life by it, and I know you do as well. But basically, what it cracks down to, it's common sense.
Yeah. This should be fundamentally human nature.
Right. And I just got off the phone like probably a half hour before we started this podcast with a friend of mine who I was just going over this stuff with because she's looking and she wants to figure out how she can help people. So I told her, I'm like, create a Facebook group, like the one that I'm in, Raise the Vibe, great Facebook group, check it out. But create a Facebook group, start inviting people, reach out to people they're putting negative posts up and just talk to them and see if you can help make their day better.
Yeah.
It's just, you get back in life what you put out in life. And I mean, right. That's preached in so many religions and so many other things. It's that, help me out here.
Really a lot of this is kind of like, I think we're, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like the golden rule.
Mm-hmm.
Act as you want to be treated.
Right. And there's so many awesome things about this, but basically how you get the law of attraction to work for you, and we'll both share examples later on of how it's worked for us.
Mm-hmm.
But how you get it to work for you is it's the power of words. It's the power of daily affirmations, meditations, and talking about it to people. And yeah, you're gonna sound like you're off your rocker or you're batshit crazy, but just be okay with that. Just be you.
Right.
But so how do you make this work? What you do, this is what I do. If there's something that I want, or if I'm not feeling well, I don't say, I just said no, but I don't say I don't want to be sick anymore, or because the universe doesn't hear the word don't. It hears I want to be sick.
Yes.
So you just basically make your, it's self-awareness. It's saying, okay, I'm sick. I get that. I want to feel better. And you put that out there and you just let it go. It's just, and then you go on with your day. You don't focus on it. You don't like the book you're talking about, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I read the first couple pages, and what I got from the first couple pages is don't focus on your money troubles, because right. All you're doing is attracting more money troubles.
Right, because what you're doing is confirming when you like, oh man, I wish I had more money. All you're doing is confirming the fact that you don't have any money.
Right. And I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but vision boards are actually awesome. But again, you don't focus on it. You just kind of look at it, and yeah. But I'm gonna give one example right now. I was financially hurting. I had moved back to the area I live in, and I had to live with my father for a while. Mm-hmm. And it was a tough situation. But I got a better job. I started working, and a buddy of mine was living in an apartment, and he heard that the lady across the hall from him was going to move out, and I'm like, I want that apartment. So I was sitting there talking to him. We're outside having a cigarette. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to have that apartment within a month. And I just believed it. And one of the things I did was when I was driving home from work, I imagined I was driving to that apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And I visualized myself driving to that apartment. And I just visualized what it was like living in that apartment. And then I let it go. And it took 2 weeks for me to get that apartment.
Right on.
But that's the law of attraction at work. And it's the power of words. It's the power of belief. I mean,
belief. You said it right there. Sorry to cut you off there, but I was waiting for you to pause to come up, because really what the biggest part of the law of attraction is belief. And it's, there's only so much telling yourself you're good. There's only so much you can tell yourself you're going to get that apartment. There's only so much you can tell yourself I'm going to get that job. Tell yourself I'm not going to be sick. I'm going to be healthy. You actually have to believe in all this. And that's where we go back to what we started, was with the mindset that when you start telling yourself these things, you can talk to yourself blue in the face, but if you don't believe it, the universe knows that.
Exactly.
So it's just like what you said with where you said, I don't want to be sick anymore. The universe only hears I want to be sick, because they don't hear the don't part. That's just like not believing. So
right.
when you do, if you decide to create a vision board, we'll go into what that is in a little bit. If you try to take some of these steps, positive affirmations and the like, belief is the basis for all of this. It's a little different when we'll go into later on down the road. We'll start going into like rituals and other things that can go along with helping the law of attraction. But if you don't believe in yourself, then none of this of course is bullshit, because you
right.
don't believe.
Right. And one of the biggest proponents, and I'm not sure if he ever actually used the term, but is Dr. Wayne Dyer. And he is probably one of my personal idols. And I also love the fact that he was born in Detroit.
Oh, right
on. But he knew about all this as a child. He, at like, I believe he was like 3 years old, his father walked out on his family. And this was the time that the man was, the major breadwinner,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because he was born in 1940. So we're talking like 1943. So most women didn't work at that time or weren't allowed to work.
And to put this in perspective, that's right around the same time that the iconic book by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, came out.
Right.
So he obviously hadn't had a chance to read any of this stuff. So this is new.
Right. And he, so he's 3 years old. His father splits on the family. His mom can't afford to take care of him and his brother, so they're put in foster care for like 10 years until she could finally get on her feet and afford them. Then she got them back. But as a child, he always, and I've been in relationships where this drove people nuts, but he just believed things would work out. He just had that simple belief, everything's going to work out. And I've driven people nuts my entire life with having the same belief, because everything usually always does work out.
Yes.
And so he had that. He graduates high school. He goes and becomes a guidance counselor in high school. And then, he was working after that. He was pulled into colleges and was teaching on the collegiate level. And then he just kind of he wrote a book. He had said, okay, I'm going to write a book and it's going to be published and it's going to do well. And it did. And, he applied the law of attraction right there. And he grew as a cultural icon in this new spirituality movement and growth. And it's basically being self-aware, being capable of introspective thought, and realizing, hey, that guy's when you're like, hey, that guy's pissing me off, that guy's not pissing you off. You're allowing him to piss you off.
Right. Right.
And so you, at that point, what you're really mad at is the fact that you allowed him to piss you off. So you have to figure out how to take that out of the equation and say, okay, he didn't piss me off. I allowed him to piss me off. That's just who he is. You accept him for who he is, and you realize he doesn't need to be in my life, so you can walk away from it.
Exactly. I'm trying to remember who said this little anecdote or what book it came from. I want to say that it was Napoleon Hill, but maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. So I'm not going to accredit this to anybody, but it was a great story that still resonated with me, or it's an anecdote. A man is sitting at a restaurant with his wife, and he looks over the restaurant and sees another man looking at him with a weird look on his face. So the man gets kind of pissed, and he tells his wife, I can't believe that guy's looking at me. So they finish their meal and they leave. Gets in the car. It's like, I can't believe, why was that guy staring at me? So they go home and they're about ready to get to bed. And once again, he tells his wife, I don't know what the hell that guy's problem was. Why was he looking at me? What the hell is wrong with that man? So he wakes up the next morning, still pissed off this man was staring at him. So let's go back to the restaurant. In the restaurant, the man who was staring at him was actually looking over his shoulder at the board that had the specials on it. In reality, that man never knew he existed. Never saw him. If he did, it was a casual glance. Had no feelings towards that man whatsoever. But the other guy who got mad allowed somebody he didn't know in a certain circumstance that he didn't have any control over, allowed that person to destroy his mood, and it was over nothing. It never happened.
Right. It's strange that you say that, because I have myself tried out some, sociology experiments. And what I would do is I would go into a store, and when you're in a store anymore, everybody's so focused on what they need. They're looking at that, getting at what they need to get out of the store, that nobody ever notices the people around them. So what I decided to do was I was going to go into these stores, or the store, and everybody I walked by, I was going to smile at them, try to make some sort of eye contact and say hello as walking by. And I did that, and it was amazing because you could feel their vibrations rising. You could feel them going, hey, I was acknowledged, and they feel good about it.
Right.
I highly recommend trying it, because if somebody does it to you, you're going to notice it. I was going for a walk one day, and this girl was jogging, and I was, making sure I was out of her way. And as she jogs by, she goes, hi. I'm like, hi. And then, you're thinking about it afterwards, like, wow, just randomly said hi to me. That's so cool.
Right. That's actually the basis of a principle called emotional transference.
Okay.
Now, emotional transference is something where you project your emotions, your displayed emotions, upon that person, so that you can set the tone of how the exchange will go before you even do it. So it's like first impressions are huge, but because when you first see somebody, your brain works so fast and you process so much information right away. But one of the things that you notice, like their appearance, how their body language, how they're walking, how they talk, how they smell, how they, you process all this stuff instantaneous when you do it. But if you come into the room and just throw your emotions out there, then you could take over the whole room, and that's the only thing that they take out of all that stuff. You hijack that first impression by doing it. Now, con men are really good at this.
Yeah.
Because con men and like used car salesmen, they're really good at this, and it can be done with, for good, but a lot of times it's done for evil. And pickup artists and bars do this with women a lot, and you can hijack your projected emotions onto somebody, and you can dictate how they're going to think about you before you even open your mouth.
Right. That's actually really cool. I never knew what it was called, so thank you for that.
No, that's cool. It's cool that you try those, and I suggest that everybody tries it, especially with a checkout or with a cashier in a checkout line on a busy day, because they have a rough life.
Yeah.
They're doing a repetitive motion all day long. It's a thankless job. They just do it. Their bodies are probably breaking down. Emote to them with positivity, and you may change that person's opinion of the day.
Right. Well, not to mention they're getting paid shit wages, so they're already unhappy.
Right.
So a little bit more about Wayne Dyer. Okay, I highly recommend anybody go out and you can look at go to YouTube, search for Dr. Wayne Dyer, and it's last name is spelled Dyer, and just listening to his stuff, because he single-handedly kept PBS afloat for 20 years.
That is awesome.
Because what he had basically was just, when he first started out with all this, and they called him a self-help guru, but he was a self-help guru who really wasn't about helping himself. It was about helping other people. He applied the stuff to himself, and he had that. He had the negative aspect at points, but he recognized it, changed it. So, but he did all this fundraising for PBS. I believe in that 20-year period, he raised over $200 million for PBS.
That's awesome.
One of his personal idols, I can't remember his name. I want to say Ram Das or Rami Das or Rumi Dal or something like that. Can't quite remember. But he was one of his personal gurus that he had listened to and who had helped him along his path. Wayne was living in Hawaii around the end of his life, and this gentleman moved to Hawaii on the same island as him. But this gentleman, from all of his book sales and everything else, he never collected a dime. All the proceeds he donated to charities. That's
amazing.
Yeah. So what Wayne did was he wrote a book, did a special, and asked and created basically like a GoFundMe type thing, and told people, hey, this guy is, because when that guy moved to Hawaii, he was in poor health and was really hurting. He had some major disease, and so Wayne decided, I'm going to raise money for him, and raise enough money to cover the guy's medical expenses, his living expenses, and everything. Because he said this guy gave of himself for his entire life and never collected anything. It's time for somebody to repay that to him for everything he's given away.
Right.
And if you're a religious person, I've gone to church, and the one thing that my pastor had said that always stuck in my head is, you can't outgive God. And another thing that Wayne touched on was, we live by ego, and we have to stop living by ego. And how he broke down ego, he said it's edge God out. That's what ego stands for. He's like, so you stop living in the ego and start living in the id. Yeah. So, because if you're sitting there going, man, I can't do that's your ego talking. If you're jealous of somebody, that's your ego talking. All this stuff is ego. You just let go of that and just live.
Yeah.
And you can be happy. But I'm going to go ahead and let you talk. I know I'm kind of taking over here, and I don't mean to.
No, so, okay, so I'm going to segue from Dr. Dyer, because right around the same time that you were talking about him being 3 years old and started understanding positive thought brings positive change as a youngster, right around that same time is the time when Napoleon Hill wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. Now, this might be the biggest or the most popular, most printed book of all time that fundamentally talks about the law of attraction. He doesn't call it the law of attraction. He calls it the law of success. But a little history on Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill was a a young kid from West Virginia, and then became a intern, I guess, for Andrew Carnegie. And if you don't know who Andrew Carnegie is, he was a steel magnate who uh, uh, he created Carnegie. He was the wealthiest man on the planet at one time, and then did a Bill Gates. Well, long before Bill Gates, he decided to give all of it away.
Right.
So he created universities like Carnegie Mellon or Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, and then the Carnegie Hall that everybody knows. He started doing all this work, but in the same time period, near the end of his death, he hired Napoleon Hill to do a 20-year study and find out the scientific formula for amassing wealth and happiness. So he does the thing, and when he was done, he was supposed to report his findings. And the report that he did was for the book called the Law of Success, and then eventually that expanded and became Think and Grow Rich. But the whole thing about Think and Grow Rich was there are basically 13 different steps that a person has to go through to finally be where they're supposed to be. And the steps are, if you desire, faith, and persistence, one can propel you to great heights. And those steps are desire, faith, autosuggestion, specialized knowledge, information or imagination, organized planning, decision, persistence, power of the mastermind, the master of sexual transmutation, the subconscious mind, the brain, and the sixth sense. Now, there's a couple of those that I think are kind of goofy, like the mystery of sexual transmutation is really one that turns sexual energy into working. So that's the time period that this was. He didn't want to go out there and say, yeah, go, fuck bitches, make money. He just wanted to say, forget about bitches, work on your job. Yeah. So that you can skip over that section of the book because it's all puritanical. But the ones that I thought were the most interesting about this whole book is the subconscious mind and then the sixth sense. And they kind of work together. The way that they kind of work together is going back to the belief thing we were talking about before. It's kind of when you do daily affirmations, you're trying to get your subconscious, you're trying to talk to your subconscious mind. And that's what hypnotism does, is it brings out your subconscious mind. Then you can be your suggestion or your, what's the word I'm looking for? You can have suggestive thoughts implanted within your subconscious mind at that point.
Okay.
But when your brain is working on a subconscious level, that means you're not actually inputting things into it. So when you change how your subconscious thinks, then that's your reality now, because that's how your brain operates. If you think, like, one of the biggest things that he talks about is making money is not hard, but most people believe it's hard. And that's something that Rich Dad Poor Dad guy, what's his name?
Robert
Kiyosaki?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I'll look it up real quick. Go ahead and talk.
Okay, but that's a point that he makes in his book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, was people that grow up with their parents saying, oh, money's so hard to come by, it's so hard to come by. Then when they're older, they believe that money is hard to come by, and that's why money's hard to come by for them. But going back to the Think and Grow Rich, the subconscious mind, if you can implant that making money is not a hard thing to do, then you start believing that making money is easy, and then eventually you will figure out what you need to do to make money.
Right. Okay. And this is interesting because you brought this up because I want to touch on this. Robert Kiyosaki, that's his name.
Yeah.
Him and his wife actually lived in a car at one point in their life.
Yes, they did. They did.
Basically, they use the law of attraction and all of their knowledge, and created an empire.
Mm-hmm.
The rich dad, poor dad empire.
Yes, and he is vastly wealthy now.
Yes.
And like Think and Grow Rich in 2015, it topped the 100 million copies list.
Right. I want to go back and touch on Andrew Carnegie for a minute.
Yeah.
Now, he is another shining example. I mean, like you talked a little bit about him, but if anybody's out there's ever taken any sort of leadership training, you know Andrew Carnegie because you had to read his books and go through his training. I mean, but he has great books like How to Win Friends and Alienate People, but it's really, he has a really powerful message. And his message is about helping others. It's not about being selfish, being a prick, going, oh, me, 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 me. It's about helping other people because that's how you help yourself.
Right. Not to mention he was a certified genius. There's a great Andrew Carnegie story that when he was a young engineer, he was put in, he was under another architect in engineering firm, but he talked his way into being in charge of building this bridge. I believe it was in Missouri. Well, when he built the bridge, people were afraid that there was I can't remember what the local ritual was, the local custom. There's some little custom there that said that the bridge is going to fail. The bridge is going to fail. Well, he came up and he was like, you know what? There was a circus in a neighboring town. He went over and borrowed an elephant. Now, an elephant will not cross something that an elephant doesn't believe is sturdy enough for them to go across, and that's public record. So he went and got this elephant and bet the entire project. He said they would knock it down and build another one if this elephant doesn't cross it. And by damn, the elephant did cross the bridge, and that bridge is still standing today.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I want to, and I'm going to probably let you tell this story, but because I'm sure you know this story as well as I do. But probably the most famous person besides Oprah that talks about the law of attraction and uses it in their life is Jim Carrey.
Oh.
Do you know the story about it?
No, I don't know this story. I don't know where you're going with this story.
Okay. When Jim Carrey was a kid, his dad, and he says it to this day, he's like, I can never be as funny as my dad. His dad was hilarious. And his dad, helped push him on his path, to doing what he's doing. And unfortunately, his father passed away before he became a star.
Mm-hmm.
But at like the age of 18, Jim Carrey wrote himself a check for $10 million. And he's like, I'm going to make this, and I'm going to do it by doing what I love, being funny, being a comedian, da-da-da. And I'm going to make movies. So, and it was within a 10-year period, he landed the Ace Ventura job, got his $10 million.
Oh, wow.
And he buried that check with his father. No, his father was alive to see him make it because it was after that he buried the check with his father.
Oh, wow.
But Jim Carrey talks a lot about the law of attraction, a lot about spiritualism and stuff like that. A lot of people think he's now batshit crazy. I think he's a fucking genius. Because if you listen to an interview with him, he's going to talk about, they're going to be like, well, why do you do this? And Jim will be like, well, why don't you do that?
Right.
It's basically, he's like, why are you asking me questions when you can figure it out for yourself and you can figure out what's good for you? I can't tell you what's good for you. Only you know what's good for you.
Right. Exactly. And that's the fun part about, I do say, I really do mean fun, because the law of attraction is fun because you get to learn a lot about what you want and a lot about what really makes you tick. Because I'm going to go back to the subtle art of not giving a fuck is on my brain because I just finished reading it a little bit ago. But there's a part in there where he talks about dreaming all the time of being a rock star. Every time the song would come on, he could just see himself on stage and just rocking out, playing these wicked guitar solos. But he never took the time to practice.
Right.
And he never took the time to learn the chords and put the money or the effort in. And like he says, you know, to lug 40 pounds of gear to a show without a car, you know. And he's like, was it because that I was lazy? Was it because that I was, you know, discouraged or just not talented enough? He's like, no. It took me till today to realize that I just didn't want it.
Right.
I was infatuated with the result, but I wasn't in love with the pain it takes to get there.
Right. I'm going to interject real quick because if he's only carrying 40 pounds worth of equipment, Jesus Christ, he's lucky. Because I was a musician and I did play shows, and it was a hell of a lot more than 40 pounds.
Right. I think he was only carrying just a preamp and his guitar.
Right.
But but so one of the things before even Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich, there was another guy that was on the scene named William Waddles.
Yes.
He wrote there's the science of being great, the science of being well, the science of winning love, and then my personal favorite, the science of getting rich.
Right.
So he never uses the term law of attraction either, because I think it wasn't he never uses the term law of attraction either. But what his whole thing is everything is made up of energy. You're made up of energy. This desk in front of me is made up of energy. The world around us is made up of energy. Everything is made up of energy. Our thoughts are made from ours, so therefore they are energy too. So our thoughts can manifest into things because they're made up of this thinking stuff, which is the same energy that's making up everything else. So that you can manifest things by your thoughts. If you think you're going to fail at something, you will. You think your car is going to break, it will. But he wrote this book back in 1913.
Oh, wow.
Or 1911. He wrote it in 1911. But those are really good books. They're kind of harder to read because when they were written. And
right.
But so this law of attraction, that energy, everything is energy. Energy manifests into things. There's having the belief that this whole thing does actually work. If you layer all this stuff together, it's a lot of shit coming down on you, but it can and does work. Like you had the apartment thing. Jim Carrey had the $10 million thing. There's countless stories. And I bet you there's things in everybody's life that's listening to this right now, or that, just as any kind of affiliation with us, has a similar story where even if it was as mundane as the one guy's story in The Secret, where he thinks of a good parking spot and there it is.
Right.
Everybody has, man, you know what? I was just thinking about that actor the other day, and now there's a new movie coming out.
Right.
All that stuff are just they're as minute and as minuscule as you think they are. Those are the law of attraction in operation.
Right. To touch on that, and one of the things, that popped up was people and their thoughts are made of pure energy, and like energy attracts like energy.
Yes.
And also, talk about, and you and I've talked about this, but talk about the whole car thing, and the color of the car.
Yeah. So, okay, perfect is, yeah. So I was driving around with my wife, and we happened to see this new orange color on a new Subaru Crosstrek. Never seen that orange color before, but I really liked it. It wasn't the typical car color. I was like, wow, that's a different color. The next day, the next day, the next day, and the next day, I seen that color on the same type of car, but not the same car, all over town. Why? Because now I'm aware of it, and I'm attracting that color to me because I now know it exists. I now know that I know to look for it. And if that wasn't a car color, if that was a better paying job, money in the bank, or just, how the story to write to finish the great American novel, if I was thinking about something else other than a car color, I would be manifesting that stuff instead.
Right.
Because just like if the car color was a negative thought, I'm now aware of that negative thought in every around every corner that I go, that negative thing is there. I'm now seeing it again. I'm now seeing it again. But in this case, if it was a positive thing, now you're seeing the positive thing. And that's kind of how really, that if you don't believe in any of this bullshit, just start thinking that if you start thinking happy thoughts, you're going to be more aware of happy things that happen to you. If you only think about negative thoughts, you're only going to be aware when negative things happen to you. And you're going to miss these great and wonderful opportunities that are there around you all the time. A good life is around you.
Right.
You just have to be able to recognize and take the action when it's there.
Exactly. It's basically living your life proactively, not reactively.
Right.
And we talk about the law of attraction. I mean, yes, you attract things into your life, but you still have to put in work. And we're not saying, hey, this is a great way to get rich. Just imagine you're getting money, you're going to get money, which happened, but it's also how you live, what you do to get this stuff.
Right. And we're going to do a whole episode about this coming up, but there is, and the reason I'm going to bring this up really quick, it's going to be condensed, but it's about, there's a other, it's not really the same type of thing as the law of attraction, but there is magic all around us. You have your right hand path, your left hand path, and then there's this third thing called chaos magic. Now, chaos magic is, to be really brief, it's whatever you want it to be. It's hard to describe it. I'm not going to try it right now. But within chaos magic, you can create a little spell that will attract what you want it to do. Okay? But for it to work, not only do you have to do the little ritual, which you pretty much decide what it is, you have to take steps to make it happen. So if you want to win a lottery, you have to buy a fucking ticket.
Really?
Yes. So, and it's the same with the law of attraction. If you want that dream girl, that you want that trophy wife or that trophy husband to introduce themselves to you, you have to get out of your fucking house.
Right.
It's not going to be the mailman delivering stuff. Or maybe your plan is to have the FedEx guy come that you had your eye on for the last 6 months. But you have to order stuff to get the FedEx guy to come to your house. You have to do something to help it along. Right.
And this is just a teeny tiny bit of the law of attraction. This will probably wrap up this week's episode, and we'll continue it in next week's episode. Because I think we've been doing this for about an hour now.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap this up, and then we'll come back with it next week and give you more law of attraction and more feel-good, positive energy.
Yes. Woohoo! And yeah, oh yeah. So insert tagline here. You all have a good week, and we'll see you next week with more of the law of attraction.
Peace out.
One. And hello out there, world.
How's everybody doing today?
We are doing great. This, of course, is the Bunny Rabbit's Hole. The Bunny Rabbit's Hole is hosted by myself, Jason,
and myself, Craig.
All right. So this is the Bunny Rabbit's Hole. And what we do here is we take a central theme every week, and then we talk about that, and wherever points that maybe come up that send us down another avenue, go to the end of that avenue, and then when we exhaust that possibility or Craig gets tired of me rambling, we come back to the central theme, which this week happens to be what, Craig?
It's the second part of our Law of Attraction series. And I say second part because who knows, it could go on or more.
Right on. Yes, the Law of Attraction. But before we get to that, first we got to say that this is an entertainment podcast / video. And to actually copy into this, you need the express written consent of myself and Craig. But sometimes we do say things that may be a little off color, maybe a little bit different. But they're opinions. This is an entertainment podcast, and I think I've jumped all over the part that you normally say in this.
Oh, that's okay. I'm just going to say that we do research the topics, both sides, the ones that fit our narrative and the ones that do not fit our narrative, and we add our opinions.
Yes.
So this is based off facts, this is based off experiences, and this is based off our opinions.
Yes, and we present both sides. We present not sometimes there's more than one side. We try to present every side that we can on an issue. We try not to preach. We try not to sway your opinion. We allow you to make that yourself because you do have free will, and our audience does have free will, and that's what we love about all y'all. But enough of the bullshit. Let's get started. This is the second part of probably about 15-part series on manifestation and the law of attraction. So right. Why don't you kick us off? Because to quick recap, what we talked about was what was the law of attraction, the history of the law of attraction, some of the major players from history of the law of attraction, and there's more to it than just watching The Secret and Oprah. So
right,
you're about to head down an avenue of one of your favorites.
Right, and I talked about him in the last episode as well, but again, I love Wayne Dyer. He is, again, one of my personal heroes. I actually, being an artist, my wife loves him as well. So one year for her birthday, I drew a portrait of him. I've sculpted a bust of him. I'm a little bit obsessed, okay?
All righty then.
He has this movie called The Shift.
Okay.
It is a free movie. You can find it online. You can watch it online. It's Wayne Dyer he wrote 32 books and 6 children's books. Wow. I talked about in the last episode about he kept PBS afloat, but the people who allowed him to do all this was a company called Hay House. They're a publishing company. They're linked with Balboa Press.
Okay.
And the head of that company is Mike Dooley, who is another phenomenal human being. But through this company, they launched this movie called The Shift.
Okay.
This is basically, it's a documentary like movie with stories interrelated with other people, like splitting, showing to a scene, watching everything unfold while he's talking about it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you have this camera crew comes in to interview Wayne Dyer in Hawaii, where he lives.
Mm-hmm.
And the producer / director / interviewer is, chomping at the bit because he's waiting on if he's going to get this movie deal.
Okay.
That's what he's focused on throughout the entire movie is, am I going to get this movie deal? Why do I have to interview this kooky guy and blah, blah, blah. So him and his crew go and sit down with Wayne. And, they're asking him questions. And it's really funny because the interviewer is asking the questions, but then his crew starts getting involved because they're digging on what he's saying. They're like, man, this shit is awesome. So the crew start asking him questions, and the guy just kind of lets it go. And it was just going. Then it splits to this couple that are going to this resort. And, this wife, the wife of it is always taking care of the kids, da-da-da-da-da. And she really wants to paint. She really wants to be an artist and blah, blah, blah. And you watch all this develop. And then this other couple that are fighting, and, it's a business trip, and his wife comes with him, and he wasn't expecting that. And they're having trouble and blah, blah, blah. But you watch all this coming, and basically it's about you hit a point in your life where you hit a shift. that switches you from all this, what you think is important to what's truly important in your life. And I know I've hit that same spot in my life. And it is the most amazing story. It's 2 hours that you will not regret spending.
Oh, awesome. We'll put a link to it in the show notes so everybody else can enjoy this.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't feel like 2 hours when you're watching it. It just flies by. My wife and I watched it, because Hay House released it, when Wayne Dyer died. He died on August 29th of 2015 from a heart attack.
Oh.
And I highly recommend, too. He was diagnosed with leukemia in 2009.
Oh, wow.
And he beat it.
And I was going to say, and he ends up dying of a heart attack 6 years later?
Yeah, at the age of 75.
Yeah.
So he's 69 years old, is diagnosed with leukemia. And I don't want to tell everybody how he beat it. I want you to go look for yourself.
Okay.
It is an amazing story. And he, like I said, wrote 32 books. You can't go wrong with any of them. Read them. They're awesome. They're feel-good books. But
that's awesome.
And I'm going to transition into Hay House and Mike Dooley and Louise Hayes. Louise Hayes was a big proponent of the law of attraction, and she basically hired Mike Dooley. They created this company, Hay House. She hired him down the line. Okay, sorry. Peanut Gallery's correcting me. So she started the company, then later on hired Mike Dooley to run it. But Mike Dooley, again, is an amazing person, and he's the one that helped make the group Raise the Vibe. It was actually this lady called Rebecca Saigoda, and it's spelled with a P, P-S-I.
Oh.
But they created this group called Raise the Vibration, and within a week, it had 40,000 members.
In a week?
In a week, because
wow.
I joined it in the third day. And then the third day there, I had 13,000 members.
So I must have got just past the 40 because you got me into it. And so that was, and I don't go to Facebook every day. So it was a couple of days after that. So yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. And it's just,
that's a testament to who he was.
Yeah. But I mean,
that shows the amount of fans and people that believed in his teachings to go, a bunch of like-minded people are coming together on this Facebook group. I'm in.
Right.
And I love a lot of the videos that get shared on that page.
Yeah. They're amazing.
Yeah.
And, from that, I think we should segue. I want to talk a little bit about, we talked about words last episode. I want to go in a little bit about this because one thing that, Wayne would talk about is the first time God ever named himself was to Moses on the mountain. And what he named himself as was, I am that I am. That was the first name of God. And basically what you break that down to is, we talked a little bit about how to get the law of attraction to work for you. But the best way to do that is affirmation, saying, you want, say, okay, you're blah, blah, blah. What's your job? Tell me, I'm sorry. Blanking. That you want. Yeah. Oh. What?
The director of internet marketing.
Okay. So you would say, I am the director of internet marketing that I am. Okay. It's like a daily affirmation. You say that and you get up, it doesn't even have to be that. It's like you say, I am healthy, that I am. I am wealthy, that I am.
Gotcha.
It's basically, I know, because to me, being a spiritualist, basically what I term myself as, yeah, I believe in God, but to me, God is, when you're outside, God's the breeze that's blowing across your face. God's the grass underneath your feet.
So you're saying my daily affirmation of I'm awesome, go fuck yourself might not be the most positive thing?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
But
I kind of have the same kind of a spiritual belief about an over seeing entity. I, without getting too much into, religious or anti-religious, I agree. There's a force, there's an energy, there's something, and that's kind of like what we talked about last week in William Waddle's books. Like the science of getting rich, the science of being well, the science of just being awesome, the science of being me. There's a whole, those last two aren't real, but there's a whole bunch of them about that. But that's kind of what he's talking about, is the whole, everything is energy. We're all made of the same stuff. So it's the same atoms and neutrons and electrons and protons that are going through my body are the same that are going through this desk, that are the same that's going through that car that I want. It's all the same. So if I manifest my thoughts into that car, I can get that car.
Right. And it's funny you use that word, because the title of one of Wayne's books is Manifest Your Destiny.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, so it's kind of cool that there's him, there's Proctor from The Secret, there's Waddles, there's Napoleon Hill, there's tons more that we haven't even scratched the surface of all these people. And then there's Helena Blavatsky, who first coined the term. She was a Russian occultist who first coined the term law of attraction. It all comes down to manifesting thoughts and beliefs into something.
Right. And, funny, last time we talked about, Jim Carrey, basically the biggest celebrity to do it. But there are others. Conor McGregor. He claims that the law of attraction is what helped him win his UFC championship titles.
Right on.
Kanye West is even a proponent. And I'm not a Kanye West fan, but hey, kudos to him.
Yeah, exactly.
But everybody's like, this is what you're going to get asked. If you talk about the law of attraction, you're like, oh, well, how can I get that? Where can I get that? Da, 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 da. I'm going to say this. You can learn everything you want to know about the law of attraction without spending a dime, except for the cost of your internet bill.
And if you don't want to even spend that, then go to the library.
Right. And you're going to run across people that are going to invite you to webinars, stuff like that, to get you to buy their book and all this stuff. You're going to find people that are going to try and use this to make money for themselves.
Yes.
You don't have to do it, because what they're going to do is say, buy my book to learn how to make the law of attraction work for you. And then you're going to buy the book, you're going to read the book, and you have to buy the next book that's going to actually give you, because the first book we just told you about them. Then you have to buy the next book, and the next book just tells you all the stories about other people. And it's just a long string of you have to buy this.
I can tell you what that all is I refer to all that as the Gilligan's Island effect.
Okay.
Come back every single week, try to see if they get off the island. But guess what? You got to tune in next week to see if they get off the island, because they didn't this week. And but in today's model, every episode of Gilligan's Island costs money.
Right.
And guess what? You're going to be no further to the truth, to the answer that you seek by the end of it. So by the end of that one episode. So the best thing to do for the law of attraction for the layperson just getting into this is, 1, watch The Shift. 2, watch The Secret. And those are 2 great places to begin to understand the fundamentals behind what all this is.
Right.
And then, not much unlike chaos magic, which we'll go into later, the law of attraction really comes down to, how does it work for you? You kind of have to put your own spin on it, because just because it works for Craig doesn't mean it's going to work for Jason, because we have, where a lot of our thoughts, our thought patterns and our beliefs and stuff are very, they're parallel. We're different people.
Right.
So you have to figure out what it is that you need to do to get what you want, because, and we'll go into this in a little bit, but there's things that you can do to help make this stuff work, like uh, a vision board. What you put on your vision board is not going to be what I put on mine. So you may want a brand new house. I may want a brand new house, but my brand new house might be a motorhome that I can drive around the country, and yours might be a 3,000 square foot ranch out in the middle of fucking nowhere that you can't even see on satellite. So
that would be awesome.
so there's no clear cut recipe for doing any of this stuff because everybody's different.
Right.
But I will say this, not everybody is special.
Right. And, this comes down to, I'm going to go into a couple analogies real quick.
Sure.
Because, and like I said last time, when you talk about this stuff, people are going to think you're batshit crazy. And here's the reasons why. Because our society suffers from the blue crab syndrome. And
please tell us about, I love this. So what is the blue crab syndrome? I love this one.
Okay. You take a 5-gallon bucket and you put a blue crab in it. The blue crab is going to reach up with its claw, grab the top, pull itself out. But if you put 2 blue crabs into this bucket, you get them in there. One's going to reach up, grab it, start pulling itself up. The other one's going to reach up, grab it, pull it back down. Then it's going to reach up, try to pull itself out. The other one's going to grab it, pull it back down. And it's a never-ending cycle. It's because in our society, we want people to do well, just not better than us.
Right.
And, everybody talks about, we need to change the world. We need to change the world. We do. But the only way to change the world is by changing yourself. And then that branches out to people around you. And it's raising your vibration.
Yes. And go into that a little bit. What do you mean by raising your vibration?
Okay. So it's scientifically proven, and this is one of the very few scientific facts with the law of attraction, because it's more belief system than it is scientific. But when you're happy and you're up, you exude an energy that is a vibration. And when you're up and happy, your vibrations are a lot higher than when you're down and sad. Yes. So, and that is, you touched on it last episode, where you can go in and control the room with the first impression by putting your emotions out there.
Yeah, emotional transference.
Right. And it's the same type of thing. It's, okay, if I'm in a really good mood, my wife is then going to become in a good mood. Anybody around me is going to be in a good mood because those vibrations pick them up as well.
Right. And they're contagious.
Right. And a good story on this is the 1,000 monkeys test.
All right. What's the 1,000 monkeys test?
Okay. Say there's an island and there's 1,000 monkeys on there. And the only thing on that island to eat are coconuts, but they don't know how to open the coconuts.
Okay.
So scientists go and they take 100 of those monkeys back to the mainland, and they teach them how to open the coconuts.
Mm-hmm.
Then they reintroduce them back to the island. And so now these monkeys are opening the coconuts, and a few learn from the monkeys, but within a day or two, it spreads to everybody else, all the other monkeys. They know how to do it without being taught.
Hmm.
And it's an energy form that just goes out.
Nice. I like that. I like that a lot. And if we all could just have more positive vibrations, because as you know, a positive wavelength is longer than a negative wavelength. So a positive wavelength should, in theory, be able to reach more people than a negative one. A negative one would be more piercing.
Right.
But a positive vibe, you should be able to affect an entire room with your positive vibrations.
Exactly. And, so you want to change the world and you got to change yourself. So what you do is you sit down, and this is when you really develop self-awareness and introspective thought. So you sit down, you figure out what it is about yourself that's bugging you and what do you need to change. So you change that. And then by living that life, you start changing the people around you. And so when they change, the people that they are around start changing. And it's like the 1,000 monkeys. It spreads.
Right.
It's like the Raise Your Vibration group. It went from one member to 40,000 members within a week.
Exactly. I'm glad you kind of touched on it there. It's like changing your vibrations and changing your thought patterns and all that is really it's reprogramming your subconscious mind.
Right.
And that's what a lot of people ended up like. They say it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert in anything.
Right.
And really that because, or 5 years of work experience at 2,000 hours per year, you should be an expert at your job after 5 years. And that's why a lot of people say when they hire, they want somebody with 5 years experience so that because they're quote unquote an expert.
Right.
Because by that point, you should be doing your job with, without even any thought. It's quote unquote second nature, or you're just doing it based off of your subconscious thoughts. Now, you can actually speed up this process with your when it comes to like how you think and how you process and ultimately changing your vibe by changing your subconscious. And you can do that through multiple ways. There's one is self-hypnosis. You sit down and you can actually, hypnosis actually taps into your subconscious brain, and you can actually implant like little seeds and try to change your brain. They do this with all the time with people that are trying to lose weight or quit smoking or just try to be a better person. They tap into your subconscious brain through hypnosis, so you can actually change there. But there's other ways that they're actually coming out with right now, like a lot of Fortune 500 CEOs, yes, the people that are in charge, are actually changing their subconscious thoughts by doing something called microdosing. Now,
what's microdosing?
Microdosing is actually taking, under doctor's supervision, very small amounts of LSD. LSD actually rewires, and it actually rewires your brain. That's why people that take too much of it, their brains are fucked up because it's the signals are, the synapses are getting all fucked up and they're misfiring in right order. But done in a small controlled amount, you can actually get your brain wired the way it's supposed to. And you can actually change it back to working like it did when you were a child. So it can open up different elements that you had lost, like imagination and creative thought, and you can expand your brain doing that. And another one that they're actually do is CBD oil. They've actually there's a thing now where if you take, they're giving psychotics 600 milligrams all at once of this. Now, it's an oil that's derived from marijuana or the cannabis plant, but it doesn't have THC, so it doesn't get you high, but it actually can reprogram or rework those synapses so that they change. And they're actually finding that doing this, you can actually take a psychotic and fix that broken part of their brain that makes them go off.
It's interesting you bring that up. I'm going to interject real quick because I just read a study the other day, and it touches on that microdosing, where they're actually using LSD to cure depression.
Yes.
I thought that was really cool. Or, it was magic mushrooms.
Oh yeah, still using psilocybin to do that.
Right. Right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, but what they're finding is that they're the reason that LSD got a huge bad thing was because of, in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s, the CIA ran this covert program called MK Ultra, and MK Ultra was a mind control thing. Everybody's probably seen the movie Manchurian Candidate, where a person is made into a assassin without them even knowing they're an assassin. And that's kind of Sirhan's defense, who shot John F. Kennedy's brother Robert in was it 68? He claimed he had no knowledge of doing it. So was he one of these people that was involved in the MK Ultra, and so, there was a couple other people that were in MK Ultra that came out after the fact. Ted Kaczynski, who was the Unabomber, was part of these experiments when he was a 16-year-old going to Harvard, and he was just trying to make extra money, and they were chucking him full of LSD. And then for some reason right now the guy's name is escaping me, but here's the reason that we know as much as we know about MK Ultra, because he was working on the program. They dosed him in a hotel room in New York City, and he jumps out the window and he commits suicide. And the family finally sued the government, got money from it, and then most of the documents from MK Ultra were released, even though they're redacted. But that's how we know what most of this stuff is. But what the whole program was changing your brain, reprogramming your brain with massive quantities of LSD. They found out that they could use this particular drug to change your brain. Now, 40 years later, they're finding out that if we do the same stuff but do it for good, instead of mass quantities, small quantities, they can actually fix and enhance the human brain now. And a lot of, like I said, Fortune 500 CEOs are doing this stuff, and they're becoming better people.
Right.
Do I think everybody in the world should be on LSD? Not necessarily.
Oh.
But in circumstances, there are other ways to help increase your vibe. And am I telling you to go out there and take LSD? No, because the shit you're probably going to get now is not like they used to get in the 60s. So,
right. You know, you bring that up, and it makes me think of, and I cannot, for some reason, think of this plant, because even Wayne Dyer used it. Do you remember it? It's like a plant that's in like the desert.
Mm-hmm. Like peyote?
Similar to peyote, but it's not peyote. There's actually places that use it for religious things, so in that aspect of it, it's legal, but other aspects it's not.
Are you talking like DMT?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And you know that does the same type of thing. It helps elevate you to a different level. And yes, some people hallucinate while on it. Some people don't. Some people get sick while on it. Mm-hmm. But afterwards, it does have an effect.
And for those that don't know what DMT is, it's a hormone that the human body creates that is secreted at the moment of death. And that's why it's called like the death drug, or there's a bunch of names for it. But that's what is believed. There are people that they see gateways and other doors and stuff from people that are clinically dead and then come back. So it's kind of where a lot of this these near-death experiences where you're floating above your body on the table and stuff, that's where a lot of that stuff comes from, is the release of this hormone. But it, like you said, it's used in different religious rituals, like Native American, and like there's a bunch of South American indigenous tribes that have these type of rituals that use this drug, and people go and pay good money to walk through this process.
Right. I want to go back to something that you touched on a little bit, and what kind of spurred this conversation, but it's basically what you're talking about is reprogramming your brain.
Yes.
And I want to clear something up for everybody out there. You yourself did not program your brain. Your brain was programmed while you were a child by your parents, by your friends, by your teachers, by your schools, by television, everything like that. And, go ahead.
No, to expand on that, if you don't believe that, think about when you first moved out of your parents' house and you started watching shows that went, you know what, that really isn't that funny. Or you start, going to restaurants or you stop going to restaurants your family used to go to because it's not me. So when you finally get out on your own, and move out of your parents' house and you start exploring and learning things about yourself is when you start realizing, oh, that's when I did. No, I went through this whole thing of self-discovery. You're not going through self-discovery. You're finally getting your own beliefs, because everything into you, and I'm not saying all racists are this way, but a lot of these people that you see that spew all this hatred, it's all they know.
Right.
So it's their grandfathers were that way. Their great grandfathers were that way. Their fathers were that way. Their brothers were that way. Their aunts, their uncles, everything that they know is that way. So that's why they believe that. And a great example of this is the young lady who was she is the granddaughter of the founder of the Westboro Baptist Church. Now, if everybody knows the Westboro Baptist Church, so those assholes that picket funerals for soldiers and police officers, and they're the ones that have the website God Hates Fags. The granddaughter of this organization was part of them. She was as a 7-year-old girl. She's holding up signs at a fallen soldier's funeral. She didn't know why, but there's a great TED Talk with her in there. I'll put her name in the show notes when we're done. But in this TED Talk, she talks about none of those beliefs were hers. She was too young to develop her own, but that's all she knew. And it wasn't until that she got into like an email conversation with a Jewish rabbi that she finally decided, okay, you know what? I'm going to give this man a few minutes. They met for coffee and it changed her life. She realized that, wait a minute, this guy is not the enemy. There's nothing wrong with this man. He believes his religion is different than mine, but there's nothing wrong with him as a person. Then she started looking at the group that she came from, her family, and what a bunch of fucking assholes.
Right.
So she left them. So it's a great example that I can think of right offhand of a lot of the stuff that you do believe is not your own.
Right.
And I do believe that children today have a better chance of not being mirror images of their parents because of the access to the internet, social media, and this. They'll actually have a better opportunity at a younger age to develop real and honest beliefs.
Oh, definitely.
Than what we did when we were coming up.
Right. Yeah, and to touch on that, racism and hatred you're not born with; it's learned.
Right.
Right. But and that kind of goes back to something I want to touch on too. It's like we are taught, that there's all these roadblocks in life, and you have to work hard for all this stuff. You have to fight through this, and we're taught that everything we do, books, movies, TV shows, there's always a hurdle that pops up, and you get over that hurdle, and another hurdle pops up. That's not the way life has to be.
No.
It's our programming that makes us attract that into our life.
Right. And where you should start reprogramming yourself is, here's a great place. If you're like, okay, Craig and Jason, how do I reprogram myself? Or the first step is recognition.
Yes.
And when you're never going to be in life without a problem. You're defined by how you deal with problems. So if you have money issues, how you deal with it is going to be your defining moments. Everybody else talks about, it's like, define the moment or let the moment define you. If you have money issues, you can create a vision board. You can start doing positive affirmations. You can start believing that you're not going to be this way anymore. Then you go into that job interview and you nail it.
Right.
Because you have the belief that you can do it. But first, you have to understand how and why and what problems, because you have money problems because something else has happened. Either you're overspending, you are stagnant in the job that you have and you're not making enough money, or you overextended yourself with student loan debts, and you shouldn't have bought all the pizza and beer for everybody with your student loan check when you really shouldn't have taken the student loan check in the first place. There's understanding and recognition of the problem. Isn't that like the first thing for an alcoholic, the moment of clarity?
Yes.
It's kind of like you have to take a minor moment of clarity in every single problem that happens in your life. I mean, now, do you have to escalate the fact that it's like, damn it, I have no more water because the cooler is empty and I got to go to the store and get another jug? No, that you don't have to. Those are problems, but they're not the real problems. Figuring out when life-defining moments happen, how you're going to define the moment. Right.
And it's funny because when it happened for me, and you talk about losing a job could also be another reason why, but I was negative in a bad place, had a job that that was surrounded by negative energy, and I am living at my dad's house and laying in bed, and I'm like, you know what? I'm tired of being pissed off all the time. I'm tired of being angry all the time. I'm tired of being acting like a fucking victim. So I'm laying in bed, and it just dawns on me. I've got control over everything I just said I'm tired of being. So you know what? I'm not going to be that anymore. And as soon as I said that to myself, and what really triggered it was me saying, you know what? I forgive all those people I feel like that have wronged me, and I forgive myself. And after that, is like this whole weight just lifted off my shoulder.
Harboring negative feelings is negative.
Exactly.
I mean, if you're trying to get away, if you're trying to be a positive person, holding on to regrets, holding on to grudges, holding on to fears, holding on to anything that's not, holding on to shit is not a good principle if you just want to live a happy life.
No, exactly.
One of the things that in the law of attraction, and one of the principles is let yesterday go. And by what that means is, if it happened yesterday, if it's in your past, let the past die, move on.
Right.
And I wish television would do this, because we don't need a fucking Magnum PI show. We don't need Murphy Brown back. We don't need Roseanne / the Connors back. We don't need any of this shit. We want new shit.
Yeah. And we don't need, the new reboot of Home Improvement being the last man standing.
Right. And then it switches networks.
Right. And
he got fired from one network and then he moves it to another network.
Well, an interesting story, too, is because he has creative control and he owns the rights to the show was the reason why the show got canceled, because the network wasn't making any money off it. Only he was.
Right.
Wasn't because of his political beliefs. It was because of that.
Right.
Anyway, and it is reprogramming your brain is a process. And that process, it comes down to introspective thinking and self-awareness.
Yes.
And like I said, I was laying in bed and that popped over me, and that began me on my path of I can be better. And by being better, I will get better. I'll get better things in my life. And, I met my wife using the same principles.
Oh, nice.
And, a perfect example, you talked about money problems. All right. Like 2 weeks ago, I thought our electric bill was, due for a shut-off notice. So I paid that, and it turned out it was the gas bill. So gas got shut off, and we had to go a week with no hot water. And I had done the Parent Plus loan for my son for school. So we were without water, and I could have gotten all stressed out about it and freaked out. But I'm like, it'll work itself out. And then, within a week, it was less than a week, my son contacts me, hey, I got my rebate check. Where do you want me to send the money? So I give him my PayPal account, and we got, within a week, had gas turned back on.
That's awesome.
And the bill's up to date now.
There you go.
as well as the electric bill.
See, the and that's something too. You have to find silver linings in everything.
Yes.
There, you're, you know, I'm trying to come up with an example of, your day could just be fucking hell. All right. But, you could be, your car could break down. You had to walk to work. You decided to take the bus, but that bus route got shut down. So you're standing there for a little bit. And as you're leaving there, a car drives by, hits a mud puddle and soaks you. But when you get to work, you take off your jacket and your shirt is clean. That's something to dwell on, because your jacket did its job. Your shirt's still clean. Your shoes are wet. Your pants are wet. But you know what? Fuck it. You can sit behind your desk and nobody's gonna know the difference as long as you don't stand up. So
Exactly.
So
yeah, and that's just it. Negative shit happens, but good things come out of it as well.
Yes.
And I am a firm believer, and people get pissed off when I say this, but I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason.
And it does. It does.
Because I've had somebody ask me, well, if that's the case, why was I abused? I don't have the answer for you. Only you have that answer.
Right. Here's one that's really, really tragic, but okay, everything happens for a reason. A young kid named Adam Walsh was kidnapped, and then I won't go into the grisly details on his murder, but he was missing for years. His father started a campaign to try to find his son Adam. Kept on it, and then he started local public access show about helping other parents try to find their children. Parents from around the world were starting to call him and asking him. He became the expert on what do you do to deal with the situation, because he had gone through it. Everybody finally everybody was talking about him. Everybody's talking about this guy. Eventually, this man ended up being the host of America's Most Wanted, John Walsh.
Okay.
And his son tragically was murdered, but he became out of this really dark thing. He crawled out of it and became a beacon of hope and light and rebirth for all the other families that have ever had to go through this after him.
Awesome.
So, he started several foundations and all this other stuff. So everything does happen for a reason. Even if you were abused, you still have to live your life.
Yeah.
And yes, you have that pain and the trauma, and please do get help. But turn all that hatred and that fear and that pain that you went through and turn it into something that you ultimately will be your legacy. Don't let somebody else that harmed you in the past define your future. Don't give them that power for the rest of your life. And I mean, I've never been through it, so I couldn't even comprehend the pain and the hurt and everything that goes along with that. But do the right steps to become the person you were supposed to be. And yeah. But there's a website called Always Greater. Okay, they do a lot of stuff about being positive and stuff. But they have 4 brain reprogramming steps that I want to read real quick.
Okay.
So the first one is understand that you can simultaneously value positive and negative ways of thinking. I like that one.
That is good.
And the next one, understand that you are less consistent in the way you think, feel, and act when you simultaneously value positive and negative ways of thinking. I like that, is expand your horizons. Don't be set in those beliefs, which we've already talked about. may or may not actually be yours. So the
Right.
third one, know without a doubt that you can, know without a doubt that you want to think, feel, and act in a positive way consistently. This means always seeing lots of value in positive thoughts and no value in negative thoughts. So just bring the positive to the surface.
Right.
And then the last one is when you change your thinking, always stop thinking of negative thoughts and start thinking of a positive thought at the same time to rewire your brain for positivity. So find silver linings and be aware that you're thinking negatively and start changing your thought patterns, and that eventually your subconscious will start taking over and you'll start noticing the orange car for good.
Right.
And if you missed that one, we talked about the law of attraction being something as mundane as just seeing a color on a car that you've never seen before, and then afterwards you always see it.
Right.
So if you're looking for positive thoughts, that orange car is a positive thought. So
right.
you're aware of it now. Or
Yeah.
if you're always thinking of negative thoughts, that orange car is now a negative thought, and you're being more aware of negative thoughts, and you're missing the opportunities that come from the positive ones.
Right. It's ironic because you say that because if you see that orange car and you're like, why would anybody ever put that color on a car? I hate that color. You're gonna see that color again there too.
Exactly. See, that's the negative side of that orange car. So I'm glad you said that, because that proves that, simultaneously positive, negative ways of thinking. Because that color of that car is not for everybody. I mean, it's almost like I don't know, a bright pumpkin color. It's a weird color. I liked it, but it's not for everybody. But
right.
Going with all this is just be aware. That's the biggest part of all this whole law of attraction, is having the awareness of self to know when you're being negative and understand that you got to stop thinking that way.
Right. I want to touch on that real quick. I even posted on Facebook the other day. So almost every day I walk across the street to the little party store across the street. Oh, and on the way home, I see trash. I pick it up, throw it away when I get home. I could focus on, man, these goddamn people, they're always throwing trash everywhere, and be pissed off about that. Or I can focus on what I can control, which is picking up the trash and throwing it away and making everything pretty again.
Right.
So I focus on picking up the trash, throwing it away, making everything pretty again.
Yeah. And that's awesome.
Yeah. Because, I mean, to get stuck on that stuff and to dwell on that stuff, there's just going to be more and more trash.
Yes. Yeah.
Everything's right. Ugly.
Right. And to turn that into like an analogy, that trash that you didn't take care of is somebody else is going to throw more trash there.
Yeah.
And then somebody's going to throw more trash. And next thing you know, that trash that you should have taken care of at the beginning, is now consumed you.
Right.
If that trash was a negative thought, if you had a negative thought at the beginning, and then somebody else says something, now you have another negative thought, and then that compounds to something else happening. That's a negative thought. And then there's another negative thought. Next thing you know, you're just this cornucopia of negativity that's just spewing out, and it's ruining not only your day, but more than likely you're transferring this with your vibes to those around you.
Exactly. I almost don't want to say this because she's in hearing distance, but I had a talk with my wife one day, and I was like, okay, when you get home from work, instead of telling me all the bad things that happened right away, can you tell me the good things that happened? And then after you're done telling me the good things, then you can tell me the bad things.
How did that go?
Actually, pretty well.
Awesome.
Because at that point, she started thinking about it and going, yeah. Because when you're away from somebody and you get, and this is a lesson for everybody, really. When you're away from somebody for like 8 hours for work or something, and then you come home to them, they're happy to see you. They want to be happy to see you. But if you come in and you're like, they're not happy to see you.
Right.
Because now they're unhappy as well as you're unhappy.
Yes. And what book is that in? I think it's in You're a Badass. Is that the name of it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think she writes about that. And if you ever want to know how to act around people when you first meet, take cues from a dog. Because every time a dog, you come home and you see a dog, the dog it's the best thing that's ever happened to that dog when you walk through that door. Oh my God, look at you. Oh my God, it's been years, man. Where you been? It's like, I just went to the mailbox. I know, but I haven't seen you forever. Yep. A dog is a perfect way to, it's like, that's how you should react with everybody. I mean, you can't, but you still have to read the room. You can't do that every time because my wife would probably slap me if I did.
Right.
But it's one of those things that a dog knows how to spread love.
Right.
Unconditional affection.
Right. And it's interesting because, there's a lot of reasons like you might not be happy. I mean, just for instance, like a lot of times, I may dread my wife coming home because I'm feeling guilty because I don't feel I've gotten enough done through the day.
Right.
During my time period where I had the opportunity with nobody in my way and nobody, around where I could get things done.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times it's not her, it's me.
Right. And you're changing your guilt or guilt. So I don't know if that's the right word, but yeah, you're kind of deflecting.
Yeah.
You're deflecting what the real issue is. It's something you've got to atone for.
Right. And
but on the other hand, I understand because I've been that, and I'm in that place quite a bit myself, where you get wrapped up doing what it is that you do, and then next thing you know, you look up, it's like, wait, is it the morning or is the sun? Did I miss the sun?
Right.
7 what? It's 7. What fuck time? What day is it?
Right.
And then you realize that the only thing she asked you to do all day was to take the towels out of the washer and put them in the dryer, because if they sit in the washer all day, they're going to stink.
Right.
Fuck! They're not going to be dry in 15 minutes.
Right. And they probably already stink. So you better off going down and rewash them.
And she has a nose that understands. I don't smell half that shit because I have allergies and my nose is stuffed up 90% of the time. So right. I have a horrible sense of smell, but my wife does not.
Right. Well, and I want to go back to the programming the brain.
Yes, that's kind of where we started in all this.
Yep. A lot of people see. I don't believe in writer's block. I don't believe in artist block and stuff like that. And the reason why I don't is because I do my best not to live in ego. And those mental blocks are from the ego. They're the programming of your brain.
Okay.
When you're young and, you say, man, like, go back to that guy who was mad who dreamed of being a rock star.
Uh-huh.
All right. So he's dreaming of being a rock star, but he doesn't actually take the steps to do it because in his mind, he's like, oh, I can never be a rock star. That's programming. You did that to yourself. You can change that.
Yeah.
And that, a person's like, oh, I can't think of anything to write. You're putting that out there. So therefore you can't.
Right.
All you have to do is open yourself up. And one thing I highly recommend is meditation.
Yeah. Before we go into that, because I want to do a whole thing on meditation, I want to add to what you're saying about the writer's block. It's also maybe you don't want it.
Right.
It's not that you can't write or that you have no ideas. It's just that you don't want to write, you know? Uh, and those are things that you have to figure out for yourself too, because there's a lot of times that there's these kids that are forced to play piano and, forced to play soccer and, do all this stuff. Well, eventually they'll find out that it wasn't they didn't want it, their parents wanted it for them.
Right.
So but they're like in the thing with the guy with the rock star, his thing was he didn't want to put in the pain. He calls it, like what he says, he didn't want the pain that it takes to become a rock star.
Right.
And a lot of times when you have writer's block or artist block, all that is, you don't want to put in the time it takes to do the fundamentals to truly understand story structure or perspectives in art, and when you don't take the time to learn all that stuff and want to know all that stuff, then maybe that's not your calling.
Right.
And
Exactly.
understanding that right up front is something that you should probably learn quick. Otherwise, you're going to waste a lot of time and a lot of other people's money.
Exactly. And a lot of your own money as well.
Right.
And that's, an example of that is, I left my last job and because I wanted to become an artist.
Mm-hmm.
So I have, for the last 4 years, put a lot of work into my art. And I live and breathe art. If I'm busy doing a project, I've got a YouTube video of how to do another project up.
Mm-hmm.
Always learning more and more and more about art. And because I'm passionate about it, that's what I want to be. There's somebody that once said that, it's also about who you surround yourself with. If you want to be this great artist, surround yourself with other great artists.
Right. You're only successful as the 5 closest friends you have.
Exactly. If you want to be rich, find some rich people to hang out with them.
Right.
If you
they know how to do it.
Yeah, if you surround yourself with poor people, you're going to be poor.
Yeah. Or you may not be poor, but it's going to be that much harder.
Yeah. But you're going to have that poor mentality.
Yes. Exactly. But we started with it, and a good way to get out of this type of stuff is, like you said, meditation.
Right. And meditation is hard for a lot of people because the key to meditation is to stop thinking.
Yeah.
And it is almost impossible to stop thinking.
Right.
But one of the key things that you do when you're meditating and you have thoughts come in, you recognize the thoughts, let them go.
You thank them for being, and then you go.
Yep. And then you continue on with trying to open up. And eventually you'll get to this point where something else takes over, and it is just an amazing experience.
And so I have that in my head. I can sit still, but my brain can't.
Right.
And that's why I pretty much stay up until I'm exhausted, then I fall asleep. But with meditation, a technique that was taught to me was take your phone or a timer, a kitchen timer, or whatever you have, some kind of timer, and then get yourself in a comfy spot. Cross your legs, do your finger poses, whatever the hell you're gonna do. But then sit down, set your timer for 1 minute, and do nothing but concentrate on breathe in, breathe out.
Right.
Breathe in
and count.
And breathe out.
I recommend when you're breathing in, breathe in to a count of 5, breathe out to a count of 4.
And when it's next thing you know, that timer's going to go off and you just meditated for a minute.
Right.
Do that for a little bit until it becomes okay, and then add 30 seconds.
Right.
Add a minute.
See, I'm differing on you on this whole timer thing because the stuff that I have researched said don't set timers because it's not good to snap out of meditation.
Mm-hmm.
It's too jarring. They don't, they say don't use, loud things or anything else like that, to bring you out of meditation. It could just come out of it naturally, and they say it's okay to fall asleep.
That's how I fall asleep.
Right. And I've actually, and I know people are going to think I'm fucking crazy for this, but I've healed myself through meditation.
Oh, nice.
I had a shoulder problem, and it was driving me nuts. And I've listened to lots of different people talk about meditation and stuff like that, and the power of thought and the power of healing through thought. And what I would do is I would breathe in. Now, for some reason, I can't remember what it's called, but this one guy calls it like something, but it's basically called God energy.
Mm-hmm.
You pick a color that feels good to you, and I breathe it in, and I would send that breath into my shoulder, and then to the parts that where it hurt, and then I'd breathe out all the pain. And doing that for like 5 minutes, I noticed that, basically it was like, the best way to say it is like your hands cramping and you pop your knuckles, crack your knuckles, and it stops hurting. It kind of releases.
Right.
It kind of happened to my shoulder. And then the next day, my shoulder was fine. I was feeling good.
Huh.
And it was just through the power of thought and meditation and breathing.
That's awesome.
And I just imagine the energy coming in, going to the area, knitting it back together, and then all the pain out.
That's awesome.
I know people are going to be listening going, this guy's full of shit. Well, that's your opinion, and you're entitled to it, and I'm good with it.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the next thing I kind of want to talk about.
Okay.
The key to the law of attraction is love. It's loving everyone and loving yourself. There's going to be
yourself. Yes.
Yeah. There's going to be people in your life that do things that you do not like, but you can't change people. You can only change yourself. So what I do is, okay, I love this person for who they are. I realize these actions they do is part of who they are. I have no control over it. So I love them for who they are, but I also know they don't need to be in my life.
Right.
And so I can let go. If it's a family member, I probably only see them at family get-togethers and stuff like that. And, be pleasant and stuff like that, and just treat them with love, and you'll get the same back.
Yeah. And along those same lines, it's just like in business. If you have a client that you don't like, then don't work with them.
Right.
If you have a negative person in your life that's driving you nuts, cut them from your life. Not only you're actually doing them a favor by you not being in their life anymore.
Right, because you're just enabling them.
Exactly. And that is just being the dope pusher is just as bad as being the dope fiend.
Exactly.
On a scale of evil or badness or whatever you want to call it.
It's not always easy. There was somebody that I truly, truly loved that I had to let go of for the same reasons.
Yeah. But along those lines too, when somebody hurts you, you have to let it go, forgive them, and move on. Otherwise, that person still has power over you, even though you have you're not connected to them anymore.
Right.
You can't allow people to have power over you when take the power back.
Right.
And if that means cutting people away out of your life, then you do it.
Right. And
if you're in an abusive relationship, end it. If you're, if you're in a bad job that you hate, go get another job. If you're, we live in one of the best countries on the planet for changing your situation.
Right.
You don't have to apply to the government to get a new apartment. You don't have to have papers just to travel to a new city. You know, you're never in this country, you're never that far away from just starting over.
Right. And it's interesting they bring that up because there's an abundance of money. There's an abundance of everything in the world. There's enough for everybody.
Yes.
It's just opening yourself up to receiving it. It's like if you're hurting for money, and you focus on that, or like that relationship thing, somebody hurt you, and that's all that you think about. The next relationship you end are probably going to end the same way.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is there may have been parts in your relationship that caused it to break down that were your fault. And if you keep harboring those images and those feelings towards that other relationship, chances are your new relationship is going to be doomed the same way because you didn't let go. You're
Right.
still harboring those feelings for that past relationship, that you're making that shit manifest in the next one.
Right.
So let shit go.
Right. We always say that we research both sides, and I am going to tell some parts of the other side.
Okay.
Okay. The law of attraction does have some critics. The Skeptical Inquirer magazine criticized the lack of falsifiability and testability of the claims of the law of attraction.
Right.
Because, again, as I said before, it's not scientific. It's a belief system.
Yeah.
Critics have asserted that the evidence provided is usually anecdotal, and that because of the self-selecting nature of the positive reports, as well as the subjective nature of any results, these reports are susceptible to confirmation bias and selection bias. Well, no shit.
Right.
Physicist Ali Aloisi, for instance, criticized it as unmeasurable and questioned the likelihood that thoughts can affect anything outside the head. I call bullshit, because when you're doing science, you're thinking about it.
You're a skeptic of Skeptical magazine?
Yeah. All right, here's some more. The law of attraction has been popularized in the early 21st century by books and films such as The Secret, the 2006 film, and the subsequent book. Use interviews with New Thought authors and speakers to explain the principles of the proposed metaphysical law that one can attract anything that one thinks about consistently. Writing for the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, Mary Carmichael and Ben Radford wrote that neither the film nor the book has any basic in scientific reality, and that its premise contains an ugly flip side. If you have an accident or disease, it's your fault. That's not what anybody's saying. Of course, it's like I said, it's a belief system. You can't scientifically prove that God exists.
Right.
And here's a little bit more. Others have questioned the references to modern scientific theory and have maintained, for example, that the law of attraction misrepresents the electrical activity of brainwaves. Victor Stenger and Leon Lederman are critical of attempts to use quantum mysticism to bridge any unexplained or seemingly implausible effects, believing these to be traits of modern pseudoscience.
So they're basically saying that they're miracles?
Possibly. And nobody believes in miracles anymore.
Right. Well, I mean, that's okay. I understand where they're saying that it's pseudoscience, because
right.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But it has been proven that positivity does affect you in a different way than negativity.
Right.
Positive reinforcement has a better effect on a child growing up than negative reinforcement.
Right.
That's true. So if that is true, then what's wrong with positive thoughts affecting your life, affecting change in your life? Now,
right.
I will play devil's advocate, and you're right. There's nothing out there that's going to say that I'm going to cut out a picture of a Lamborghini Countach, a red one, because that's my dream car from when I was a child, put it on a board, look at it every once in a while, and then want it so bad that it's going to show up somehow in my driveway.
Right.
Nobody's saying that. All right. The law of attraction is simply, and we'll here eventually we're going to do chaos magic, and they kind of go together, but we said that chaos magic will be its own episode, but or just magic in general. Part of chaos magic is when you create a sigil, and I'll go through what all that is in the next episode. So you have to stay tuned. This is foreshadowing. This is a teaser. When you do your ritual to bring something into your life, you still have to take appropriate steps to make it happen. So realistically, if you're going to do a ritual for the law of attraction, and a ritual as simple as cutting out all the things that you want in your life and placing them on a board, and it's called a vision board, and then you stare at it and then you put it away, and then you look at it 3 to 5 years later to see if any of those things have manifested. Now, really what all of this breaks down to is implanting your desires into your subconscious so that you are unknowingly going after these things. So you're not thinking about them all the time, but on a subconscious level, you're taking the appropriate actions to make them happen.
So,
and go ahead.
So to kind of sum up what you're saying is, you use the law of attraction to open up opportunities for you to achieve what you want.
Yeah. Yes. Just thinking about, like we talked before, you still have to put things in motion. If you
Right.
want to win the lottery and you make, you cast a spell, you fire a sigil, you create a vision board, and you want to win a lottery, you still have to buy the ticket.
Right.
So if you want that car, then there's probably a whole series of steps. Now you could do the law of attraction way. You could do the magical way. You can do praying to your deity way. There's all these different ways of manifesting goods and services into your life. And another way is simply you write out what it is that you want, and then you write down all of the logical steps that you would have to take to make that happen. Then you start with step one. So if I wanted to be the CEO of a company, that's on my vision board. I want to be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. So if I'm only 15 years old and that's my goal, I'm going to write down CEO. Then first one is I have to graduate high school with good enough grades to get me into a decent school. Then when I go to college, I have to apply to that decent school, write the entrance exam or essay, get accepted to that school, get accepted to their business school, excel at that business school, get the internship with a prominent company, then get a decent job, and then go after and put in the time and the hours that it takes and sacrifice my home life so that eventually I can move into that corner office. In that corner office, I can move into the top floor and be finally the CEO of that company. Now,
right.
That is appropriate for trying to map out getting to your goal.
Right.
What the law of attraction does is you start believing in visualizing and focus on that same CEO job, so that it gets ingrained into your subconscious so that you're not consciously thinking that, okay, now I got to finish high school, then with good grades, then I got to get into that school, and then blah, 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 get that corner office and finally move to the top floor as the CEO. It is creating a belief within your own subconscious that you are taking the necessary steps without having to think about it.
Right.
So it's not some hoodoo voodoo magic that says I'm going to cut out a picture of a mansion, throw it on a piece of cardboard, look at it once, throw it in my closet, and then 30 to 60 days, I'm going to have that mansion when all I do is sit around playing Call of Duty eating Cheetos.
Right.
So
I'm going to throw out another example of how the law of attractions worked in my life. Okay, so it's the afternoon. Mailman comes. I know because the dog went nuts. And so I'm like, all right, and I'm in a good mood this day. I'm feeling good. So I'm going to get the mail. I'm like, you know what? I bet you there's money in the mail today. So I go get the mail, and I look at it, and there's something from a medical company. So I'm like, oh, it looks like a bill. It's probably a bill. So I'm like, oh, well. So I put the mail up for where my wife can find it when she gets home so she can look at it because, she handles the bills. So, and I forget about it. So I go to doing my thing. My wife comes home. She goes to the mail. She's like, hey, there's a check for $500 in here. And I look at it, and it's from that medical company. It was an overage from our insurance paid too much for a bill, or it got charged twice, so paid it twice, so they sent us the money back.
Oh, wow.
And that was just all from a basic thought of, hey, you know what? I thought, hey, there's going to be money in the mail. And then I let it go into the universe and let it manifest.
I'm glad you said that because it spurred a thought. So you have to be specific when you ask for things from the universe through the law of attraction, because there's one thing that the universe has is a sense of humor. So if you're just saying, hey, I want $500, okay, you're not saying how you're going to get it. You're not just going to say, if you're not specific about it, then if you're not going to be specific about it, then you have to be very open to all possibilities of making that $500.
Right.
So if you say that, like you could have went out to say you're like, okay, I want $500. You could have went out to the mail, and it came in is a pre-approved credit card offer for $500. So then you still have to take the effort, fill out the credit card thing, send it back there. Now you got a credit card worth $500. So you have to look for this stuff around you. So it could come to you in multiple different ways. It could come to you in a reimbursement check from the insurance company, or if you just say, I want to get rich, and you don't give it specific reasons why, you could walk out that door, your front of your house, go check the mail, and get hit by a car that ultimately you settle with their insurance company for a sizable sum. Now, you're rich now, but you're in a really bad spot. So you got to be specific with what it is that you want. And you probably should think when you're visualizing it, because like when you visualize driving a car, I want a new truck. Okay. So I visualize myself sitting in that truck, and it's got heated leather seats, cloth seats. I hate leather. So you're sitting there, it's got heated seats. It's got a heated steering wheel. It's got, backup camera, great sound system. It's, it's a nice truck. You want to think what is the feel of the buttons like? How much, what is the cost of this thing? You want to think about every single specific thing about that truck. And then subconsciously, you will start taking actions to get that truck. So it's
exactly. And I kind of want to sum this up with your t-shirt you're wearing. Because the law of attraction is very similar to D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, where there's a spell called Wish, and you have to be very careful with the wording, because dungeon masters have a very wicked sense of humor, and say you wish to be rich, I wish to have another 500 gold pieces. Well, then the rest of your party just got killed, and you got 500 gold pieces off their bodies.
Right. Yes. So, yes, just like dungeon masters or game masters or whatever you want to call them, for whatever role-playing game you're playing, it is the law of attraction is it's like controlled wishing, and I keep like throwing out hints about chaos magic, but it's kind of the similar. It's all about controlled wishing, and you got to be specific, and otherwise the universe will fuck with you.
Oh yeah. And this podcast is, to me, another example of the law of attraction, because I always thought, it'd be cool to just sit down and have a conversation with somebody, have it available for other people to hear.
Yeah. So full disclosure, Craig used to call me while I was at work, and I would just walk around, and we'd end up talking for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, basically like this.
Right.
And that's where the birth of this podcast came from, was these long conversations that we'd have, but we didn't have a central theme. We didn't do any research. It was just us going back and forth. But this is kind of like I needed another creative release that wasn't, that had nothing to do with building websites or working or anything like that. So this is in a way, it came to me through the law of attraction, through the universe granting me my wish.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, for me, this is the toughest thing about being a creative person. And I mean, you kind of touched on it earlier, because you said you have to stay up until you're exhausted before you can go to bed. When you have a creative brain, there's no shut off button.
No.
You're always thinking about what you're going to do next, or the project you're working on. How can I make that better? And same way, I have to take medication to sleep, because I can't shut that part of my brain off.
See, my wife does too. She has to take medication to fall asleep. Otherwise she can't do it.
Yep. And so, and do I regret that? No, because I love being creative.
Right.
To me, it's who I am. It's who I've always wanted to be.
Yeah. See, this is what I get when I sleep. Notes and notes and notes. I wake up, turn the light on, write something down, fall back asleep.
Yep.
But
I don't do that, but I should. I also recommend people keep a dream log.
Yes. We'll definitely go so we're kind of going to do a part 3 to law of attraction and its own thing come next week, where we're going to go into magic. And
yes.
In magic, part of I'll give you like a little taste. Part of understanding yourself and understanding magic is a lot of this stuff is transformed or transmuted to you through your dreams. So when you start getting into magic, a dream journal is necessary, because and the reason it's necessary is because you start seeing patterns. And when you start seeing patterns, then you can realize that you can actually learn a lot about yourself and what's going on with you, and strengths that you may not have seen, or weaknesses that you can fix. You start seeing different things start popping up into dreams, and then just research them a little bit with there's apps on your phone that'll tell you what different things in dreams mean. When you start seeing like a corpse flower, in multiple dreams, that might mean that you have a fear of fun things. So
right.
Fear. You may have a fear of cuddling or emotions. So you start seeing all that stuff with a dream journal, and we'll go way into that stuff in our next episode. But for this episode,
right, this episode, I mean, I'm sure we could go on and on and on, but I think it's best for our audience to now take that step and go out and learn more for themselves. And like I said, I'm going to recommend The Shift. I'm going to recommend any book published through Hay House, or any video series through Hay House. I'm going to recommend, of course, Dr. Wayne Dyer, Eckhart Tolle, another great one. the Dalai Lama, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Mike Dooley. Check out the Louise Hay. Check out the Raise the Vibe group on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you have recommendations.
Yeah. Look up Napoleon Hill, all his books. Then all the books by William Waddles. Then a couple of newer ones is the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and then You're a Badass.
Right. There's
And
a
then
series.
what's the other one?
Unfuck Yourself.
Unfuck Yourself. Yes.
I was gonna say, isn't there a series of those?
Yeah. They're all written by different people, but they all kind of go together. And
Right.
if you're in for a treat, the Unfuck Yourself one was written by a Scottish man, and if you go to Audible and you get the audiobook, it's actually done by a man with a Scottish accent, and it just makes the book that much better.
Oh, awesome. I'm gonna check that out. Yeah, so basically, to sum up this episode, we talked at the beginning I talked a lot about Wayne Dyer and, his movie and stuff like that. We delved into reprogramming your brain.
Mm-hmm.
What else did we touch on, Jason?
We talked about microdosing. We talked about the law of opposites. We did a little bit of chaos magic. We'll go into that more next week. The 4 steps of reprogramming your brain from always greater. Then we talked a lot about understanding and recognition of things when they are granted, and be specific, because the universe will fuck with you.
Right. And I'm going to bring something up again real quick, because I thought about it earlier. When you get angry, chances are you're not angry at somebody else. You're angry at yourself. So what you need to do is stop, take a deep breath, step outside yourself, and look and see and ask yourself, why am I really angry? And I guarantee it's not because it's what somebody did. It's something that you're doing. It's like the person that's constantly accusing somebody of cheating. They're accusing them because they're trying to cover up for what they're actually doing.
Because they actually did cheat.
Right. So it's more guilt, and they're angry at themselves. So they're trying to, in their head, they're trying to figure out a way to not be mad at themselves for doing it. So they're projecting it onto you.
So puff, puff, give, motherfucker.
Right.
Help a lot of that.
Yeah. So this has been a fun episode. I really enjoyed it. I'm sure we're gonna retouch on this again somewhere down the road.
Yeah, and a lot of these concepts. Next week we're gonna do a right hand, left hand, and chaos magic. But the reason we're gonna do those next is because you'll see that there's a lot of stuff that overlap.
Right.
In it. So unofficially, the chaos magic is Law of Attraction Part 3.
Right.
But it's really just chaos magic. So please come back next week. I am Jason.
I am Craig.
And insert tagline here, and we will see you soon. And please follow us on all social media, and write some comments in the box down here, and ask us questions. We will respond. Right.
And if you have something you'd like to hear us talk about, put in a suggestion. If we like it, we'll check it out.
Exactly. So we appreciate all of you. Without all of you, we'd probably still do this, but without all of you, we wouldn't have people to share it with.
Right, exactly. So peace out.